Vanessa Barone,
Ashley Johnson,
Marie Lucas,
Lauren McKenzie,
Sean Neckley.
During World War II, weapons were developed by the Manhattan Project. On August 6, 1945, the second artificial nuclear explosion in history was dropped on the Japanese city of Hiroshima by U.S. Air Force. The dropping of the bomb was ordered by U.S. President Harry S. Truman. The code name of this atomic bomb was Little Boy. The name of the plane that dropped Little Boy was Enola Gay, piloted by Colonel Paul Tibbets. In a single blinding moment, 70,000 people were killed, and 90% of the buildings were destroyed. The second bomb, Fat Man, was dropped on Nagasaki 3 days later on August 9th at 11:02 a.m. The north of the city was destroyed, with an estimate of 40,000 people killed and several hundred thousand deceased from intense radiation. After the dropping of Fat Man, Japanese Emperor Hirohito surrendered.
Of young Americans.
The bombing of Nagasaki and Hiroshima was not given full support with the decision of Harry S. Truman, though the procedure was still carried out by the United States Air Force, killing as many as 140,000 people in Hiroshima and 80,000 people in Nagasaki. This was an overwhelming majority of civilians. Most illnesses and deformities came from the exposure to the radiation. Hiroshima and Nagasaki had 1,162 cases of cerebrovascular diseases, also 469 cases of cerebral infractions. This truly left Japan in a state of vulnerability and need for public health. Living areas were also torn apart and jobs were lost. The bombing might have brought complete devastation to Japan, but it brought celebration to the United States. While Japan had reasons to suffer, the United States had reasons to celebrate. Japan announced its surrender to the Allied powers and signed the Instrument of Surrender on September 2, 1945, putting a final end to World War II. The dropping of the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki also led to Germany signing its Instrument of Surrender on May 7th, and Germany signing the Instrument of Surrender led to the end of war in Europe as well. Among many of the Americans who were celebrating was World War II veteran Frank Bradford, who has multiple enthralling experiences in the war.
The second day of the Battle of Leyte was October 21st, 1944. Japanese were masters in the art of camouflage and were survivalists when supply lines were cut. Medium tanks and 4 light tanks of the U.S. 1st Tank Division and 120 American soldiers went to take part of the island when they were crossing the bridge. An explosion went off on the bridge and the bridge fell as the tanks crossed it. The Japanese all died and they had a body count of 39. U.S. infantry moved in to cut off Japanese supply lines and didn't know what to expect, so they sent in 4 men to scout the area. My grandfather was one of them. They found a Japanese camp and opened fire, killing about 20 Japanese soldiers. One of the men next to my grandfather was shot through the top of his head and not his neck. He survived because the rest of the infantry moved in and took out the camp. In the camp, they found 3 captured American pilots, prisoners of war. In the Philippines, my grandfather's tank was shot and the explosion pushed him into a coral reef about 70 feet below the water's surface. He opened the hatch under all the pressure from the water on top.
Bradford's experience in the war as a soldier certainly influenced his reaction to the end of the war. The day of the dropping of the atomic bomb, he stated, "We all went silent because at that moment we all knew it was over."
Yes, there was no law that forbade the bombing of Japanese civilians.
No, because the bombing was a crime against humanity, an act of war and terrorism, and was illegal under the international law of time.
Were Hiroshima and Nagasaki legitimate military targets?
Yes, because Hiroshima was the strategic military headquarters of the 5th Division and the 2nd General Army, which commanded the defense of southern Japan. And Nagasaki was both the industrial and military center where war goods were produced.
Japan, you got something to say about that?
No, because Hiroshima and Nagasaki were of limited military value, and because within two cities, civilians were outnumbered by troops in a ratio of 6-1.
Was the bombing of Japan necessary for getting them to surrender?
Yes, because Japan would not have surrendered without being bombed first. We felt we would have to intervene personally to be effective. The bombing was a golden opportunity given by heaven for Japan to end the war.
No, because even if the atomic bombs hadn't been dropped, and even if no invasion had been planned, we still would have surrendered. We were already defeated, and we were ready to surrender.
Did the bombing reduce the death toll of World War II?
Yes, because invading Japan would have resulted in casualties far beyond bombs. If we didn't drop the bomb, the war would have continued, and more people would have died. It was a speedy end to the war, and it was critical in saving lives.
Bombings did not reduce numbers. They were unnecessary since we were looking for peace.
Was it morally right to use the automatic bombs?
Yes, because it was necessary in achieving surrender.
No, because bombing our cities was a barbaric and immoral crime against humanity. The U.S. resorted to harming innocent civilians out of merely impatience.
Was it necessary to drop the second bomb on Nagasaki?
Yes, because it was necessary in achieving surrender.
No, because the U.S. should have waited longer before bombing Nagasaki. The U.S. couldn't even wait for 2 months before dropping the bomb.
Unfortunately, this debate has not yet been resolved and is still an issue on what is truly and morally right.
Say you want a revolution, well, you know, we all want to change the world. You tell me that it's evolution, well,